Recently, I was watching Taylor Martin's latest video talking about the Leatherman Tool Company, and it really made me think about what is happening with multi-tool companies. Leatherman, he summarizes becoming more of a lifestyle brand, and that's why we're seeing a lot of the shifts and changes there. And it got me thinking about why I love Gerber so much. Gerber is not the best multi-tool brand. Victorinox and Leatherman definitely have the beat in many ways, but one of the ways that Gerber is the best at, for me at least, is in modding. So Gerber was really, I feel like, the company that gave me the big push into the modding sector. I've been modding Leathermans before, but Gerber gave me the courage to sort of go ahead and try. And with the Gerber Armbar, I found a platform where I could do all kinds of stuff with multiple different pliers. So whether it was the EOD set of pliers that goes in the Super Tool and also the Mutt, or whether it was Byberry's Surge Clone or the Rebar or the Core, or even the Klein that sort of works. I still need to do some work on this one, or even again another Rebar, whatever it was, I pretty much found that I could almost make it work. And if it didn't work, I could figure out why it didn't and make it work in this system. So it's very easy, very adaptable. Now, it's not a perfect system, and as you can see, the pliers hardly have any space together, and right here they are very far open. So one of the things that I soon found out was that the bit driver, I was having issues getting it to lock, and it took me a little while to figure out why. One of the reasons is, or the main reason, is that this frame doesn't extend long enough for this piece of metal to connect against. You always need 2 points of contact to really lock up well. So I was locking it up on the bottom, but then there was always this huge pivot travel where I could not get the bit driver to lock up. So my answer at the time was just to crank this down until it was almost impossible to use, which isn't really a good solve. And so I did eventually move on from the armbar frame. But this actually caught on, and I have seen other people mod and use this frame. I do think there's a huge amount of value. The value is that you can fit almost any size of plier into this frame because it's wide enough to accept it. And I think Gerber would actually be pretty smart to work on that with some larger pliers. Now, what I transitioned to in the meantime was actually using the Armbar Slim on the Leatherman Wave platform and then cutting the wave down. And that was a lot more successful. I felt like that worked a lot better. And then I could simply cut the file down. The Wave has these pivot holders that you can move up, and so it looks a lot better. I could even use the Gerber Armbar scissors on this. I could shorten the knife. And I felt like that was a lot more successful. So I made several versions of these, and you have seen, especially if you're part of the membership channel where I do about a mod a week, you have seen many different versions of this. So that was very successful. I still always like to try new things. And so when Gerber came out with the Stakeout Drive, which actually seemed to be their version of what I had been doing with the armbar handles, I like this. And the only problem was it had pretty much the clip on the end that made it a lot longer. So I was able to cut that clip off, and it put the Gerber Armbar hammer ends. See, these, each armbar has one at the end, and I was able to use one of those and rig it up so that it works in the back. I felt like that made a lot more compact tool. I've been working on sharpening the scissors. I've got several sharpeners. I have not been able to successfully sharpen them yet, but they do cut good enough for most tasks. And then I just love this bit driver. I really like the chisel file. I love the hammer that I have on there. The knife is really sharp. Overall, I think this tool is really, really cool. And I do wish they would actually bring this out in a couple more colors, but I think it's an excellent tool. It's way too expensive, but on eBay now it's about half price. And so at $45, I think it's a lot better price than around the $80 Gerber sells it new. For $45 or so, it's a pretty cool little tool. Now, I moved on from that, and recently I realized that the Gerber MP400 is just an excellent light tool. And even though it is around that 4-inch frame size, it really is a gem. And so I began to work with that. One of the things I love about this system is that you can mod tools from other multi-tools, just like with the Gerber Armbar, accepting the pliers. The Gerber MP400 on the handle, it accepts different tools if you do a little bit of modding. And with this locking mechanism, as long as you have like a flat piece that snaps into here, it will lock it into place. And I was able to use the Byberry day camping, this 1/4" bit driver, and make a locking 1/4" bit driver in the MP400. I think that is a game changer. I really love that. I like the scissors in it. This has the knife. I do plan to switch out the Phillips driver. We don't need that anymore, so I'll put some of the smaller screwdrivers, which I think will make this a lot more useful. But the MP400 is a fantastic platform for modding, so I have transitioned to that, and I will do some more modding on that. I was able to drill and tap some screws in here using the Leatherman Free Series pocket clip. I was able to use some double-sided tape and then use some thread locker, and it is working at the moment. It's not totally straight. It's a lot better than some of the other pocket clips I've put on. And yeah, it's been a joy to carry, sort of disappearing in the pocket. It's a very lightweight tool. One of the things that Gerber does not get enough credit is that it is very easy to replace broken tools. Now, one of the case in points about how great Gerber is for swapping out parts is this Gerber Fisherman MP600. Now, these are very expensive. I think I've seen prices of from $200 to $300 at the high end and over $100 at the low end. I got this under $100 because it's in such poor condition, has a bunch of broken parts, broken knife blade, and so forth. But one of the great things is that you can get the parts that go in here off of a normal Gerber MP600, and you can buy the Gerber MP600 for about $20 and then just replace all these parts. And so it's really not a big issue. Now on here from Zach, the multi-tool parts store, he has his own channel, and you can get this great little parsing tool. So one of the beautiful things about Gerber is they have this pivot where it locks in on the one side and you only have to have one tool, and then you just loosen this up. Now you can see there's a bunch of dirt in there, and I'll work on that a little bit later, but it is so much easier to work on Gerber than it is Leatherman, or even to work on Byberry and some other tools overseas. Now, when I say Gerber, I mean only the ones with these pivots. Some of the NXT suspensions might be a little bit harder, or at least the smaller Gerber tools where they actually do have a bunch of Loctite, and their pivot screws with the Torx heads are able to strip out extremely easily. But when you have this parsing tool and they use this style, it is fairly easy on almost every Gerber I've used to take them apart, which is really neat. As prices keep going up on Leatherman tools, I've been investing in buying some of these cheaper Gerbers, and anytime I see them for about under $20, I am trying to pick them up. So I've got a bunch of them right here. So I plan to make several different models using this tool because they're so cheap and easy to mod. I think I'll make an equestrian multi-tool, try my hand at that, maybe a mechanics tool, and on and on. I think there's almost limitless possibilities with Gerber. So overall, I love how Gerber is cheaper to buy if you want to get into modding. They can be a little bit more forgiving, especially using this platform, and even some of the interior tools that can be a little bit more forgiving. And they do seem to major, Gerber has recently, a lot in some of these outside bit drivers, which I'm a huge fan of. So all those things are really great. I think Gerber has done some amazing things. Their center drive and dual force are pretty great, and I'm hoping that in the future we'll see a lot more great things from Gerber. But in the meantime, some of these Gerbers past and present, I've really enjoyed modding. Great job, Gerber.